the nation and others?
We'd be willing to help on that. You know, just give us a green light. We'll be happy to put out water stations. But we put them ahead of the villages, preferably south, so the folks will come into the villages so that they get their water, they're in a hurry, and then they'll get the water and they bypass the villages. You know, we are aware of limited resources, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to ask a question? Take a couple more questions, and I know the band is just getting ready to play for the group here. Your name, please?
Juana? Pretty loud. Yes. My question is gaming, and you started to talk about deficit and budget and that kind of thing, and it seems to me that on the long run, if you look at the past and the future, I don't know personally what the history has been, but I'm wondering if either of you could share a little bit about what is your knowledge in terms of the nation's past experience with how to grow the money, where the tribe has made, I mean, this business of having deficit, that's every government, if you look at the news, is in that kind of a situation. But historically, has the nation progressively gained in its economic status, and how did that happen, and how do you see that being grown in the future? Because what I keep hearing is that the nation currently, and I guess maybe a lot of tribes, are very much dependent on gaming as the source of income. But also hearing that may not be forever, and if it isn't, what other economic revenues could be seen, or in what ways can the nation continue to grow? So to me, it's more about what have we done in the past to bring us to where we are now, so that we're not poor, and what are our plans for the future, so that we continue to grow in many different directions and not totally rely on gaming. Your comments?
In 2007, it was actually March 26th and 27th. In 2007, I scheduled a financial summit here at the Desert Diamond Casino, and invited all of the elected officials to come together to have that historical perspective of where our money was generated from: cattle, mining. Many people sought seasoned work off the O'odham Nation, worked in cotton fields, and eventually many people generated our own revenue through royalties from mining on the nation. However, one of the positive aspects about using gaming, even people like Senator John McCain, who is opposed to gambling, but he supported the right of tribes to make that decision, supported the sovereignty in this capacity to allow tribes to decide whether or not to engage in gaming. However, it was to jumpstart our economy. It wasn't forever, and it's not supposed to be forever. And what we're proposing in terms of economic development is, first of all, we need to gather our O'odham business owners, O'odham experts, to develop a strategic plan of what types of economic development we want to see on our nation or we don't want to see on our nation. I've heard that we have the potential for more mining on our nation, but is that what we really want on our nation? When I was chair of the O'odham Nation, we were bombarded, and I'm sure it's still the case today, bombarded by proposals from companies, businesses who want to do business with the O'odham Nation. But is it the type of activity that we want to support on our nation? We've never had that comprehensive discussion with our own people, our districts and our communities to determine business on our nation. What works for other tribes may not work for us. We also feel that infrastructure and how costly it is. We have not had a comprehensive discussion with other entities on the nation, like the O'odham Utility Authority, IHS, Indian Health Service, the O'odham Geek Association, and some of the business owners on our nation and the government itself to discuss how we coordinate our resources to ensure that we have water, power, sewer, and even telecommunications on our nation. And those are the most costly things that are required for business or even to build a home. Even land, to request for land is, I think many people here in our nation, you know how difficult it can be for some just to identify land. I know that I've often been asked, why doesn't the O'odham Nation have a hotel anywhere on our nation? And my response is, believe it or not, we don't have the land. You see all that land out there. It's not that we don't have the physical land, it's just the process for identifying land for business. Some communities fully support their tribal members to engage in their own business. And that's what we really need to see in districts, to support individuals, O'odham, and even as a government to support business on our nation. Because it also brings jobs, even with the roads department that we're proposing, as well as investing money into the Geek Association for housing. We can look at apprenticeship opportunities for our men on our nation and young ladies who are graduating with certificates and degrees, and the journeyman, construction, plumbing, who are looking for employment on our nation. And that's really what it's all about, is jobs for our people. And so that's one of the first things. We don't want to continue to plan because I think we've spent a lot of time planning. But we need to hear from our own what types of business do we want to see or not see on our nation, and that's where we need to begin, but not spend a whole lot of time discussing again.
I just want to say that everything she said is basically what we talked about, and we're in agreement. We talked along between ourselves, so everything she said is what we agreed on.
Thank you.
The other thing is energy. There is federal funds available for energy projects, and the O'odham Nation would be ideal. However, there's two barriers: the amount of time that it takes the Bureau of Indian Affairs to conduct their environmental assessments, and for many companies, they can access federal tax credits in a shorter period of time off the O'odham Nation instead of on the nation. And so it just takes a long time to move forward with economic development, and we need to work with other tribes to remove those barriers. Sometimes it's really not necessary.
The question I want to ask both is, what is your commitment to protecting our sacred sites on the nation and from encroachment and desecration?
We have advocated and we have shared with the Babakibri District Council the need to work tirelessly to place the eastern portion of Wawrikyok into trust status. A lot of our own people don't know that the eastern side of Babakibri Peak is not part of the reservation, and yet that's one of the most sacred places on our nation. There were attempts to do so over the last 10 years, and I wasn't involved in that lobbying effort. However, just looking from the outside, I found that there was too much emphasis placed on lobbying the Congress and not enough time lobbying the administration, the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Bureau of Land Management. Because when it came time to, schedule the hearing and invite people to come in to testify, you had people from the BIA and BLM who came in and opposed the O'odhamDecision effort to place it into trust. And you have to work hard to work with individuals so that when you come to the table to testify, you try to eliminate any issues or concerns that people have, so that when you do come to the table and you testify before Congress, you worked out all of the issues beforehand, so that you're hopefully in unification to moving this forward. I believe being a resident community from Babakiri, not just from the district, but from the mountain itself, that many people travel there to pray, to conduct ceremonies, but there's also many people who go to climb the peak. And that's the concern from people who like to rappel on the eastern side of the peak, is that they felt like they could no longer come to that place to climb. So that's been part of our platform, to work tirelessly to place that into trust. If we can spend millions of dollars trying to place other pieces of land into trust, we ought to do the same for our most sacred site of the nation.
I would just like to say that in talking about sacred sites, we're both committed to preserving sacred sites in many of the areas, like the one that she just got through talking about. But there are also, being from the western area, there are also sites that that only O'odham know about, and they don't like talking about them, and they don't want to share it with anyone, because once it gets out, it won't be sacred anymore. So we're both committed to it. Thank you.
And there's also sacred sites in Mexico that are being encroached on, that we need to take a greater role in protecting.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Wilson. Just a comment before I get to my question. We speak about sacred tribes of O'odham, but the most sacredness there is human beings. Last year, 107 migrants died on O'odham land. Where is our sacredness? We go to Marina, we go to Magdalena, because we want to exercise our sacredness. And yet we're migrants, children of God. Believe it or not, they are children of God. When 107 will die again on O'odham land, we have no moral authority to say O'odham land is sacred. But my question is, a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, we found out in the Arizona Daily Star that the O'odhamDecision had been in secret negotiations with Correction Corps of America to build a 750-bed prison in Santa Maria District. This is my district. What was the justification for building a migrant prison on O'odham land? And it gets worse. We have now found out that Corrections Corps of America wrote Senate Bill 1070, the most racist legislation to come out of the Arizona legislature. And now that O'odhamDecision had been in negotiation with CCA to build a prison, and now we know that they wrote 1070. And so my question, I don't want a legal answer, I don't want a political answer. I want a moral response to a moral question. What was the nation's moral responsibility or participation in building a migrant detention prison on our so-called sacred lands?
All that I'm aware of is that there was an attempt by the Senator District and in cooperation with the nation to build a correctional facility. The information that you are sharing is new information, and I am aware of SB 1070, and the fact that we're not in office right now, I think that, I'm not sure if you posed that question to the current administration.
No, I haven't, but I would have. Because it gets even worse. Because last year, April 23rd, our governor signed 1070 into law. 2 weeks later, the O'odham Legislative Council passed a resolution condemning SB 1070 as racial profiling. And I have said, and I will say again, the O'odham Legislative Council, you have no moral authority to condemn 1070. That resolution by the Tribal Council was written with the blood of 107 dead migrants in O'odham land. And when are we as O'odham people going to be held accountable? I don't want to be excluded as an O'odham from the immigration debate. I don't want people to say, well, what do you expect? They're only O'odham. Well, what do you expect? They're only Indians. Because there's a moral standard. There's something wrong here. We as O'odham people must be equals. Why is it okay for us to condemn the Border Patrol for migrant deaths? And yet for us as O'odham people, nobody says anything. Well, what do you expect? They're only O'odham. And I don't want that. I want them to say, you are an American citizen, you are children of God. And as children of God, we hold you equally moral accountable. Nobody is better than you, nobody is less than you. And so what's absent in this debate, which has been absent for 10 years, is O'odham leadership, the lack of moral leadership, and that worries me. Because we have to find out in the newspaper that our tribal leaders were negotiating with Corrections Corps of America to build a prison for migrants, for people of color, that we as O'odham people, we were once the oppressed, now we're the oppressors. We look down on O'odham in Mexico. We look down on indigenous people coming from Mexico because we sort of feel that we have HUD housing. We have HUD housing going up there, going down to San Miguel. Well, that makes us better. That we have 4-bedroom house with air conditioning and fireplaces going up in San Miguel. All of them in Mexico do not have HUD housing. They don't have Indian health. And so we look down at people poorer than we were, and we forgot. We as O'odham people, we forgot how poor we used to be. That our houses were adobe, the floors were dirt, and the roof leaked. And so I'm expecting, and I haven't seen it in 10 years, moral leadership. Above and beyond political leadership. Above and beyond political posturing, going to Washington, D.C., and coming back with pictures standing with political leaderships. President Obama, Vice President, Chairman of the House, Nancy, not her last name.
Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi, thank you. Because I've gone into the chairman's office. That's what you have to show for your trips to Washington? And I want to thank Mel, in particular, Don Off in Communication, for putting this on. This is done by private O'odham. And the legislative, the Dawn of the Nation should be supporting O'odham tribal leaders in business and not coming to these. As an O'odham, I feel slighted by the chairman. The arrogance. Oh, you know what? I don't have to go to Mel's thing. No, it's not about Mel. It's about being accountable to O'odham people. What we don't have is accountability. What we have is arrogance to not come here. And just like Mel, as an O'odham, they should be here. Or they should have sent somebody here to take these questions. And if I sound angry, I'm not angry at the O'odham people. I'm angry at our tribal government for its lack of moral vision, for its lack of a moral leadership, for its lack of avoiding accountability for human beings down on O'odham land. When we talk about sacredness, we're losing our sacredness. And God forbid that we lose our land. But don't get me started.
Thank you.
We'll take two more questions and then we'll close it down.
My name is Richard Calabro and I live in Green Valley. I've been there 10 years, originally from Massachusetts. I'm very honored to be here tonight, invited as a member of the general public to this campaign elections meeting. To meet two of the candidates. Being from Massachusetts, I really haven't had much voter experience until I came out here 10 years ago. About 4 years ago, the issue of the migrant need came to me personally as one of our candidates. Vivian Saunders said, they come right to your door. Yes, in Green Valley it happens too. And as you all probably know, it's not so much in Green Valley. In the last year or two, it's more further out. The so-called deterrence policy of our government is to push migrants further and further away from civilized areas. Supposedly, enough of them will die that will deter others from coming. Well, now they're dying more on the Tohono O'odham reservation than anywhere else. At any rate, I joined the group called the Green Valley Swarita Samaritans after experiencing firsthand what it's like to meet your fellow human being in the most desperate situation that it's unimaginable for me to even think that this could be me. Well, this was me. Walking on this frontage road by the highway, barely dragging one foot in front of the other, as sunset was approaching, and I'm driving back to my house, just 5 minutes from my home. What could I do? I had to stop and see what's wrong. I knew this had to be a migrant. You don't see average people in Green Valley walking down the frontage road like that. Somebody in serious trouble. So I opened the window, I said, can I help you? The first thing was tears before the man could even respond. That someone stopped to offer to help. When he got in my car, I don't think it's illegal. It's immoral to call that illegal. He got in my car. First thing he did was took out a picture of his son, Jose Jr. His son was the reason that he was near death. And that was the message. He was there to support his family. And 90%, I would guess, of people that we see, these migrants, are doing this and threatening their lives for that same reason, to support their families. Jose turned out to be the smartest student in his high school class. And he was an indigenous Mayan from Guatemala. Not to hold you too long, but his teacher, he would get his homework done before everybody else, and he taught himself English while everybody else in the class was using study to get homework done. And this is a very intelligent man. And he said to me, I don't think I could have made it through another night. I spent last night in a tree all night long with coyotes, yelling, barking up the tree. Imagine how traumatic that is for any human being. It's a horrible thing. He was the smartest kid in his class in Guatemala. Mayans are discriminated against in Guatemala. Even in Chiapas, Mexico, on the other side of the border, they're discriminated against. So he couldn't qualify for a scholarship as another student might have. So here he was, because he had a brother in Virginia somewhere, coming up here trying to meet up with his brother where he could get a job in construction. And the whole story came up on a train from Guatemala with 3 other friends from his neighborhood. These people who are hiring migrants up here in the United States, these business people, they call for migrants in various villages and communities where they already have workers coming there. They say, send word back home that we need a few more. So they're coming up here already knowing that somebody is waiting to give them a job. Anyway, I'll sum it up. But just understand, as Mike said, the humanity of every one of these, our fellow human beings, and the desperation that we have imposed, the wealthy have imposed on people to force them to go through this, to find one. So, I guess I'm just saying, it seems as though when you, candidate Saunders, when you said that you gave water to a migrant who came to your door, and had you done anything more than that, you could have been arrested. See, I don't think that's even true in our United States of America, that we could do more than just give them water. I mean, we do have organizations that do put water out, and they don't get arrested. So this is what I'm supportive of Mike Wilson and Humane Borders to do that, especially in a place not to target the Tohono Reservation, but happens to be where the deaths are occurring the most. And if you could find a way to change that policy of prohibiting that water to be placed out there in the reservation and not making it illegal, that's what I request of you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to say that not only was water offered, but we were pressed to give them a ride to Phoenix. And if we transport them in our vehicles, we'll get arrested. That's what I was referring to, and I apologize I didn't state earlier that they were pressing us to give them a ride to their destinations. And there's different situations where people just passing through. Other people, have other things going on. And that's, it's like a case-by-case situation. But I think that, as I stated, by the time someone comes to our door, which is on the northern edge of the nation, they've been traveling through the desert for 5, 6, 7 days. If I can give them water and food and send them on their way, what's going to happen? Are they going to end up dying? Or do I call the authorities to pick them up because they're so dehydrated they're going to die and they need help? And there's been situations where I have called the authorities because they were just so incoherent. I knew that, something had to be done. So So I think that that's the situation that we're in when we have people who come to our door. Thank you.
I'm Daniel Joaquin, and with Magic, former tribal chairman Angelo Joaquin. I had just, I speak foreign language too, English. Yeah, I just have a comment to make here. I thought this autumn is supposed to be autumn Ida, manjelda mi mani kai chama kam mo jenni ke kam ta sikku humach kam mo sikku ho kam humach kam chama git ul so kam nenyo kam bagi tu ta mi chia si priano menyo puis chik to se priano menyo kam kai cha habinya ka ni nya nya mta tu puis de kam hi tu spaita kam nya hu ta pusama api chairman Cuma kita masuk hasari ti itu kekir jauh. Yang mau sama semuanya itu semua yang dia kekor. Ladies, okay, something tu. Mau masma, masma soal, mau masma cuy. Matoka sigur macam matas siapa pun cuy. Mau bag, mau cuci, mau our best interest, mau acung apa kan, mas mau murjida, mau ida mau nabaju ni mai cuma nabaju ni kepik, ida ya cuy ida, masa makak kehum macam, kemus ebit, orang mana ni jadi gawe, mata mau jadi. It's urban, это autumn, это башаджук, autumn, как что не американ, как мати маша и туем, раун, как американ, как мама кай, как матаска монарха. Мама обчуек, пиши обчуек, мо пиши мама этот конорик, мама кай гнал. Ты суам, что это? Mama menit mama behind you. Mat the machma ke anak sebut mat bot otomoinio. Yang jabor apa mama behind you manda musia mutu mama tamani kam haskai kit mota. Ke amoy oi ida amoy chip ida. Posnio de triar ka mama mas mahagit. Matema moni tata geria mo pehi magi mo chui ke bet sia che ano de uta mo aga smurit ka mo no de kai chu mo si hugi de pinko hugi de geria ka e mo as has to be that pehugi je kam pe chu sni tam hugi pe sni da ta pe mo tas mas mo hugi ke amoni geria tas mas mo ske ko hugi. Gracias. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Roberta Takala, and I had a question. And I know that one of the biggest issues is always trying to put the right people in the right places. And our type of government, you know, we've been looking at it from different points and different perspectives, but I'm talking about, what I'm trying to get to is education. And trying to bring, how are we going to bring people, how can we bring people back off of the reservation to come home to help out? Because, for example, I myself, you know, I got my education, I got my degrees, graduated from ASU, came home for a while, and helped my nation out in all perspectives. And I still help my people out wherever I go. But one of the the biggest things in my area is trying to come home and help. But I can't come home because I have too much education is what I've been told. And I don't know if that is something that's hurting a lot of our people who are off the reservation and they just want to come home. I want to come home. But I sit here today because I've been out there in Phoenix. You know, I worked for the Department of Revenue. Just getting experience to come home to help our nation with this economic, development, the plan. How are we going to fix our economics at home? Our audits with all the districts, our own district, the Guacha district. And it really upsets me because I was there when all these audits came out. And now they're finding out more, and it's going from one. And yet our communities aren't even being told what's really happening. And this goes again with putting the right people in the right places. We're not looking at that. We're looking at who family members are or what people have done. But yet again, we need to start thinking in the best interest of knowledge and how we're going to educate our youth, how educate our people. So my question is on education, looking at the factor of what are we going to do to get our people educated, including our lost young adults who feel that they have nothing because of the fact that they dropped out of school because of distance, because of the communities, or they feel like they're not worthy because they can't provide for their families, and the domestic scenes that come about because of this. It works both ways in a relationship, but we know that out in the nation. But how can we help our people, expand this education?
The problem kaca pace ida macam ada hagi am jadi tetuakak macam sama ni dah tetuakak je temas cuma je tikidak mau ida tetuakak kursi hama hagi si hai cuma mat sapa nyukat ke cuma marga tuai tarjik am je macam cuma eba has cuma macam mau cek yang kata cukup ada macam itu ni je macam amani macam semas je macam sin nampak macam pai je pai mai hai je macam pai hawa terkau macam bawa macam sapai kejurai ni aja kejurai terkau ke tak bawa nak sapai mai hawa terkau macam Jika macam mas ni aja macam soal dah idam morsiar, jika kamu mata ai kami kok mata kubi macam macam mahal morsi hai je mata mai hawa macam mungkin macam soal dah idam mata morsi hawa idam hujur amai tua ke O'odham kau nariaga Sapa mai hawa tidak sapa mai bersai johan marsha amjar ke O'odham hiendak O'odham tuaka atas masma bihi O'odham je hobi katusi sholam kegajma macam usit macam am jadi makam mahakam mahakit ini hai jo semua hai jo smart pamas mahai jo smart macam Amerika mak workik pam jadi workik je tas je hai je mahas masma point hai jo macam masma pakai je mata motor mahaki masih hai je mata mas cakar mahakam masih je mar mahakam mata kopi mas je terus si mata kita mai hakam terus si pai mana sapai itu akan je jago punya itu apa mas cik pan mak saya usan một bữa si ta bị bữa nặng sơ kỳ chờ một cứ kia mà một chi là mà tao một cái mà tao bơi u mát mà cái khi tao một chi là cái tao bơi như mà pas cho tết cho mà tao bớt cho nhỉ mà pas cho gặp so much cái tao sao bơi như khi cái mà am hôm bây giờ mà bữa bây mà mọi vạn cứ đào một chiếc cái cái bữa bơi hao thì cứ mà chứ. You know, that's what we macam mas makai jahat macam mas macam binyamat nak sesenyami terus banyak kai nak kama sami cerita kota menyo. But I'll let Vivian go ahead.
The O'odhamNation has a O'odham preference policy. If the enrolled member has the minimum qualifications, that's the priority, is to hire O'odham. The next is other Native Americans, and then everyone else. But there's no guarantee that just because you're an enrolled member of the O'odhamNation that you'll be the first to be selected. It's the minimum qualifications. There's also people that may not have the education that may be required for certain jobs, that they'll look at least 5 years experience that you've had in that field. And one of the ways that we can approach the concerns that you're referring to is through internships for the O'odhamNation. Former Chairman Josiah Moore invited me to serve in his office 20 hours a week as an intern. And so I would come to his office, and he would have me attend meetings, and he would give me assignments. It was interesting, though, that many of the other people in our building didn't quite understand why I could just come out of nowhere and have a job, and didn't understand what an internship was about. And so they invited me to a meeting to help educate other people about, I'm just there on a temporary basis just to learn the job, learn the role, and to assist wherever I can. And if it's from a university, whether the individual can earn credit or part of their class requirement to participate in programs like that. But I know that's been very successful, and if people aren't familiar with what an internship does or is, then sometimes it just creates situations where, without knowledge and without background of an internship program, people will create situations that are unnecessary. Education also helps with providing salaries for individuals. I know that someone talked to me about why someone who hadn't worked for the nation was provided a job and had a salary increase to the position that they applied for. And I asked them, did the individual have a degree? And they said yes. And I said, well, oftentimes that's the case. And it was another O'odham that they were referring to. And so she concluded that if she also went to school and earned a degree, that she could increase her salary if the money is available to do so. So she went away to school. She went to Pima, earned her 2-year degree, and went back and continues to take classes. And I think that we learn from each other. And it's unfortunate that people are told that they have too much education, because education, there's lifelong learning that we all bring to the table. And I just feel that we just need to follow our O'odham preference. Thank you.
Okay, if you will, Ms. Saunders, if you would, give another opportunity to go ahead and close off the political forum. So again, time.
No, but
Okay, well, just want to thank all of you for coming here tonight. I'm sure you had other things to do, but I'm glad you came. Glad to have answered your questions, and thank you for the ones that encouraged us, you know, by telling us some things that we needed to hear. And also thank Donald Communications for putting this on, sponsoring, and the Tobacco Barn. And just good night.
Hanya dapat bacui si sapetat ke baju ke kita hamas aga ke cuma ke kai cuma si hasai tu je mata maka apa je acem macam kai cuma tamawa apa je kita mas tadi ke bacui si hasai cuma tawada mata ai May 28 bike shower si hasai cuma tamahim kamawada nas hai ape ma ya hai che ko ma tam water to je wala mata ai primary election nas hai ape ma pe mo water to je oya wa che ho mo che bam che ape ma pe water ha wo je ka itam hai up candidates ja che ma ta water Kuke cuma ma bukyo kai je Mr. Joaquin mata hukyo ama je tam hama cuma mui hai je sku ka ju to je porque cuma mas ma ni mata si toi ka ma to se ja je ma mai ta chip kan ida te ma dai huke ka watch. Just want to thank everyone else for the opportunity to be here this evening, and I just want to stress how important it is to vote. Maybe there's people here in this room that voted for us during the primary election. Maybe there's people here that did not vote for us. We ask for your vote, and we ask for your continued support. And for those that did not vote at all, we ask you to please go to the polls on May 28th and cast your vote. And we are here this evening because we felt that it was important to hear from our anthem, to hear from people who want a choice and want to hear from candidates running for these positions so they can make an educated choice when they go to the polls on May 28th. And that's why we're here this evening. We want to thank our families as well for being on this road with us. So good evening and enjoy your dancing. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much, and to all of you.